I think it's about time we get started here. So, greetings and welcome to the Color Literacy Forum number 14. I'm Luann Stovall, a member of the Color Literacy Project core team and host of the Color Literacy Forums. The forums offer a platform to share innovative research, teaching methods, and resources to expand 21st century color education at the university level across all disciplines, from design and the arts to humanities and the sciences. This project is a collaboration of the Color Literacy Project in partnership with the International Color Association, that's the AIC, and the Intersociety Color Council, the ISCC, and Cumulus, the leading global association of art and design research. Before we jump in, please keep your cameras and microphones off during the forum. And be sure to let us know who you are right now by putting your name, where you're joining us from, and your university or place of work in the chat box. An active chat box is highly encouraged in the forums. So please keep your fingers warmed up for comments and questions. We'd love to hear from everyone because we are all in this color community together. Thank you. This is the fourth and final forum in our 2025 series titled Facts and Myths About Color. The series delves into widespread misconceptions about color found in textbooks, including those from prestigious publishers, as well as in scientific and popular articles, magazines, and the internet. While the Color Literacy Project has previously addressed some of these myths, this series takes a deeper dive with insights from experts across various disciplines. The series has covered several key topics. Forum 11 delved into the limitations of traditional color theory and explored how outdated models continue to shape education, their shortcomings in the classroom, and why an updated interdisciplinary approach is needed. Forum 12 focused on misconceptions about color attributes, harmony, and meaning, addressing why a simple color wheel is insufficient for describing color relationships, how the hue paradigm falls short, and the complexities of color symbolism and its psychological effects. Forum 13 investigated the myth of color mixing, why the idea that colors can be mixed in a straightforward way is misleading, and how comparative mixing provides a more accurate perspective. Today's forum number 14, Color Matters, How Color Shapes Experience Beyond Theory, challenges the perception of color as a merely an aesthetic addition, instead highlighting its deeper communicative, functional, and psychological roles. Before I introduce our speakers, now let's review the timeline. Today's forum is 90 minutes long and is divided into two parts. Part 1 is an hour long. Each speaker will give an approximately 15-minute presentation. You are encouraged to type your comments and questions in the chat box during the presentations. But rather than take questions after each talk, we'll have a moderated panel discussion with the speakers in part 2 of the program from 12 noon to 12:30 p.m., and that's Eastern Time. Your questions and comments will be addressed during this session. And now I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker. Talk 1, the affective meanings carried by color. Dr. Domicele Jonauskaite is an experimental psychologist studying meanings, preferences, and effects of color across cultures and individuals. Her research spans 70+ countries and examines diverse populations, such as children, elderly, people with limited color vision, and the totally blind. Dr. Jonauskaite is currently a senior lecturer and Ambition Fellow at the University of Lausanne in Switzerland. She has authored over 40 scientific publications, and her contribution to science has been recognized with several prestigious awards. Her research positions have been supported with 4 personal career fellowships from the Swiss National Science Foundation. Together with Professor Christine Moore, Domicele is a co-founder of the Color Experience platform, designed to disseminate scientifically validated empirical research on the psychological effects of color. So without further ado, please welcome Domicele Jonauskaite. Domicele, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this really, really kind introduction, Lohan, and for the invitation. So also, without further ado, I share my slides and we can start the talk. So let's see if this works now. Oh. Is it okay? Can you see it?
That's perfect, Domicele.
Okay, perfect. So I just make everyone very small. Okay, so as Loan introduced me, I'm working at the University of Lausanne in Switzerland, and today I will be talking about the affective meanings carried by color. But before we go into this topic, I wanted to start a bit more broadly. So I wanted to start with the term color psychology. I am sure that many of you have heard this term, and it kind of floats around in the media, and often there are like claims saying color psychology says this or color psychology says that. But so the way I would define this idea of color psychology is that it's a claim that color has impact on human psychological functioning. However, I would, yes, and there are many different websites in different languages making claims that color can influence our emotions, our well-being, our memory, our cognition, all the different psychological functions. However, many of these claims may or may not have scientific foundation, and therefore I would say that the field that I am working on, I would define it as experimental color psychology. And in this way, we are testing claims and beliefs using scientific methods. And today I will talk specifically about the beliefs that colors and emotions are linked, or that colors can affect our emotions. So a little bit about me. So where is Lausanne? I'm based here at the Institute of Psychology, and I have been working for over 10 years on these questions. And the research we conduct, like broadly, can be divided into two types. So on the one hand, we are running international surveys, and on the other hand, we are running studies, well-controlled studies in laboratory and also in real-life settings. So in our international surveys, we have studied over 80 countries, so participants coming from these countries in more than 40 languages, and we have collected data from more than 15,000 participants. Of course, we don't do that alone. We have a lot of collaborators around the world, and in red you can see the countries where we already have collaborators, and in gray where we would like to have. Okay, and then in the lab, as Luan already said, so we are studying adults, but we also studied different kinds of age groups, so adolescents, children, elderly, and also I have been interested in the importance of our visual experience on color emotion associations, studying colorblind people, visually impaired people, achromatopsic people, and so on. But today I won't have much time to delve into this research, so we're just going to focus on the international surveys and the findings we have. Let me show you this wheel, because this is kind of the basis of most studies that we conduct. So this is, it's a so-called AI companion is transcribing the meeting. I get rid of the message. Okay, so this is the so-called Geneva emotion wheel, and it contains 20 emotion labels organized in a circle. And these labels come from natural language, which means that people should understand their meaning, or let's say native speakers should understand their meaning. And they are also organized along emotion dimensions. So we have positive emotions on the right, negative emotions on the left. We have high power or high dominance emotions at the top, and low power, low dominance emotions at the bottom. There are also high and low arousal emotions, which is allowing us to analyze the data based on individual emotions, but also on their affective dimensions. And I will show you a little bit later what that actually means. So now, if you were a participant in our study, one possibility would be that you see a color term, for example, red, written in black, so you don't actually see color. And we ask you to tell us which emotions you associate with this color term. So, for example, if you're a typical participant, you might say, I associate love with red. And these circles indicate the intensity of emotion. So perhaps you say it's high intense love. And maybe you also associate anger with red, perhaps a little bit less strongly. Then you go to another color term. They all appear in randomized order. So for example, you see blue, and you might say you associate it with strong relief, contentment, sadness, perhaps a little bit of joy, and so on. So you see, in our studies, we work with 12 basic color terms, and they appear in random order, and you have to respond to all of them. Yes, and in other studies, instead of showing color terms, you might see actual color patches. So for example, here you see a blue. We might pre-select these colors, or we might allow you to select the colors yourself. Okay, so this is the basic kind of design that we are using. And what's important to us is that participants need to complete the study in their native language. And therefore, we have translated it in in 46 languages, the one with color terms. So this is an example for purple, for example, how it appears in 46 languages. Maybe you see your language, maybe not, I don't know. And this is also what the Geneva emotion wheel appears in different languages. And we have to, of course, deal with different writing scripts, different writing directions. Yeah. And so all the data that I show you have been collected from native speakers doing the survey in their own language. So what have we learned so far? So I'll try to give you some key take-home messages. So first of all, we found that colors and emotions, or color concepts and emotion concepts, are systematically associated. And we can look at discrete associations, or we can look at dimensional associations. So discrete associations are simply color categories and emotion categories, or words. So these findings actually come from our review, which we published this year, and it systematized kind of most of the existing literature on color emotion associations. And here what we did is we found, we extracted the emotion terms or affective words that are most frequently found to be associated with different color categories. So, for example, you can see that red is associated with anger, but also love and happiness or happy. Pink is associated also with love, so it connects with red, but also with happy and fun and pleasure and all other different emotions. And what's important here to see, obviously, is that the associations between colors and emotions are many to many, which means that one color can carry different emotional significations, and one emotion can be associated with different colors or color categories. So here we're just talking about like the category. But we can also think of dimensional associations, and sometimes they are maybe more helpful also in practice. So what do I mean by dimensions? Well, first of all, you probably know, because you also have been to different talks of Color Literacy Project, that we can position every color on a three-dimensional space. And the three-dimensional space, for example, would be lightness, chroma, and hue. So lightness defines how light or dark a color is. And when we think about emotions, what we have found is that lighter colors are associated with more positive emotions, and darker colors are associated with more negative emotions. We can also think about chroma or saturation, which defines how vivid or pure the color is. So colors with low chroma are grayish, and colors with high chroma are pure and saturated. And what we found is that, again, valence was linking to chroma. So more chromatic colors are associated with more positive emotions, but they are also associated with more active and more empowering emotions. And low saturation or low chroma, so grayish colors, are associated with more negative emotions, calmer, and weaker emotions. And thirdly, we can look at hue. So hue is often what people think that color is. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue. I mean, obviously, it depends how you work with this variable. One way of looking at it would be through color temperature, where we have cool hues and warm hues and something in the middle. And what we find is that warmer hues are associated with more positive emotions, but also more active and more empowering emotions, while cooler hues are associated with more negative, calmer, and weaker emotions. Okay, then I told you that we are running these international surveys. So what have we found from these data? So one of the conclusions that we have drawn is that color emotion associations are universally understood. So let me show you what I mean by that. So usually we work with this kind of data representation. We call them the color emotion association matrices. And what you see here is we have 20 emotions, so from the Geneva emotion wheel, and we have 12 color terms. And we make like a matrix, and basically the darker the square, the more likely this association is. So here you can see exactly what I told you before, that, for example, red is associated with anger, hate, and love. So this is really data from our studies. Yellow is associated with joy, and so on and so forth. Basically, there are only 3 color terms that are, well, if you think of categories that are negative, so those are gray, black, and brown associated with disgust. All other color categories seem to be associated with positive emotions, and red is ambivalent. So we create this kind of matrix, and one of them is the average of all the 73 countries that we studied. The other one is from Switzerland. So you can think for yourself which one you think is which one, but they are pretty similar. And so this is the right answer. And if you compare them statistically, so we can do a correlation between 73 populations and Switzerland, we find the correlation of 0.94. And correlations go from 0, so completely separate patterns, to 1, meaning the pattern is identical. So 0.94 is a pretty high correlation, showing that basically the pattern of associations is similar. Very, very similar between the global pattern and Switzerland. It is, we can see that in Switzerland we have a little bit more of these red squares, and that probably means that there is more agreement between people, or perhaps that the associations are just more strongly expressed. But we're not interested in the intensity of the association, we are interested in what is associated with what, so that's the pattern. Okay, so we did that for Switzerland. Now we can do the same for the 73 countries, each country individually. So here, of course, I cannot fit 73 matrices, but I just wanted to show you how it looks. So we have matrices from Algeria to France, so ANF. And when we do these correlations, we find that on average they are 0.88. So they are still very, very high, and they range between 0.70 and 0.94. So this is why we have concluded that color emotion associations are universally understood. Then we also looked at other individual differences. So for example, age. So we find that older participants across the world associate more positive emotions with colors. But there is still a very high degree of similarity. So in principle, they agree on what is associated with what. We looked at gender differences. That's also a question that comes up often. And we found that men and women mainly agree on color emotion associations. And again, here the similarity it's almost identical. It's 0.99. As I said, 1 would be identical patterns. So on average, across the globe, if we just take men and women, we don't really find any differences in the pattern associations. Okay, so you might wonder, does this mean that colors influence our emotions? And here we are talking about myths and facts. Well, the short answer is we don't know, because everything I presented so far and most research that is done on color emotion associations, they're done on associations. So it means we are looking at abstract meaning. And what I can say is that colors represent different emotions. They convey this meaning. They have signification. They have symbolism. But we can't really claim that colors influence our emotions. In other words, we cannot say that if you associate yellow with joy, that you will actually feel happy being in a yellow room. So to do that, we need different kinds of designs. So again, talking as an experimental psychologist, what we need to do is we need to immerse people in color, and we need to measure what they are feeling. And this is what we are currently doing with my students in Lausanne. So we're using virtual reality and light rooms to immerse people in different colors. And we are measuring their self-reported feelings, but we're also measuring their physiological responses. So maybe I will have more answers in the future. But another thing that we can do is we can also ask people what they think about this influence of colors on emotions. And this is where I would like to ask your help. So we have just launched a new survey in which we are asking people to imagine different spaces, being in different spaces, and we are asking them to tell us how they think they would feel. So kind of bridging between associations and the impact, the belief we think is a very important aspect. And in particular, we want to compare people working professionally with color or having color training, in other words, being color literate, and people who are not professionally working with color, who perhaps don't really think about color every day. So maybe let me just open. Yes, so we have, as I said, language is an important aspect for us. So we have translated the survey now in 4 languages. So English, Spanish, German, and French. So I would be extremely grateful if, now or later, if you could complete our survey and also share with your students, share with people you think would be interested in the survey. We are looking for, as I said, people who are working with color, but also people who are not working, kind of what we call control group in psychology, because we want to compare, we want to compare their responses. So with that, I would like to thank you for listening. I would like to thank the team working with me, all our collaborators, and I will be looking forward to questions at the end of the event. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. Domicele, that was extremely interesting. And I'm speaking, I think, for so many of us. It's so exciting to be able to, first of all, have the kind of research that you're showing us and that you're asking us to be part of. And I was thinking when you were talking that it feels like what you're doing is part of a consciousness raising effort to help us feel that we are, to understand that we're more fully dimensional as humans and the role that our color vision and our perception plays in our lives. So thank you so much for that. We're looking forward to the conversation after the talks during the panel. So appreciate it. So we will now shift our focus from the ways we associate colors with emotions to how colors can be used in urban planning to address today's challenges. Talk 2 is the effects of urban color planning on mood and perception. Verena M. Schindler is an art and architectural historian, color researcher, chair of the study group on environmental color design of the International Color Association, and a member of Procolore Swiss Color Association. Affiliated with Atelier Claire Etude Chromatique in Paris for many years, she has worked at the Institute for the History and Theory of Architecture and the Department of Architecture at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, and also as an art teacher. Verena has researched, published, and edited extensively in color in art, architecture, urban planning, and design. She is a member of several editorial boards and an academic editor of color research and application. Please welcome Verena Schindler. Verena, your screen, it went up and then it went away.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm sharing. Share. Now it's okay.
Okay, and just go full screen and we'll be
Yes.
happy. That's
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
So the title of my presentation is The Effects of Urban Color Planning on Mood and Perception. In today's presentation, I will address some key questions relating to urban color planning. These questions will address the challenges we face today. First, let's take a look at the colors of Stockholm. Along the seafront, the colors of the facades of the buildings range from creamy white and yellow, light yellowish ochre, to burnt orange and terracotta. These neighboring warm, rich, earthy shades combine harmoniously. In contrast, let us look at the roofs. They are dark brown and visually merge to create a continuous horizontal line, creating a striking contrast with the facades. Additionally, the copper roofs have naturally turned a light blue-green color over time. This panorama of the city district appears as a built ribbon stretching between the blue sky and the darker blue sea. The harmony is no coincidence. It is the result of careful color planning. Åke Svedmeyer was a Swedish architect, widely recognized as a leading expert and pioneer in architecture color theory and its application. He is primarily known for his significant contributions to defining how color is used within built environments, particularly in large-scale urban planning and public housing projects in Sweden from the mid-20th century onwards. Imagine now if, for example, one of the buildings were painted yellow and the other light blue. It would look out of place amidst these earthy color palette. Would it still look as good? What if a few buildings were painted yellow-green? What are your thoughts on that? What if most of the buildings were painted yellow or yellow-green? These two colors strongly evoke brightness and vibrancy. These associations stem from color psychology and the natural world. Yellow is universally associated with sunshine, optimism, energy, and warmth. Its high brightness makes it the most visible color to the human eye. Yellow-green combines the energy of yellow with the freshness of green, often bringing to mind new growth, nature, liveliness. But do these colors evoke joy, health, and freshness in urban context? Yes, but it would completely change Stockholm's identity. This reminds me of Emily Noyes van der Poel, an artist and historian who published in 1901 a painting manual called Color Problems, a practical manual for the layman. She imagined that painting New York City green would have a positive effect on the city and its inhabitants. This actually happened in Paris. Haussmannian in Paris is primarily built with limestone, a high-quality cream-colored stone sourced from quarries under the city itself. This gave the buildings their iconic uniform color and elegant appearance. This locally sourced stone enabled large-scale uniform facades to be constructed, which defined the city's distinctive 19th century appearance. But what happened here? Led by Dominic Jacob and Brendan McFarlane, the British-French firm Jacob McFarlane transformed a historic warehouse alongside the River Seine into a vibrant center for fashion, design, and culture. Since then, it has become an iconic green building with a yellow-green plug-over design. The transformation, though, left many estranged, perplexed, and disoriented. Inside, the city can be seen through a repetitive pattern of undulating shapes, that imitate the reflections on a water surface. In recent years, environmental issues have become a key concern, driven by growing awareness of the impact of human activity on ecosystems and resources and of climate change. These concerns led to the introduction of new policies and summits already in the 1970s and 1980s, as well as the coining of the term sustainable development. In 21st century color design, sustainability means incorporating ecological principles into the selection and application of colors. Minimizing chemical impact is another key aspect. This approach considers the entire life cycle of colors, from production to the effect on human behavior and the environment. It promotes a more holistic way of creating a greener built environment. I recommend reading the article by Ingrid Calvo-Ivanovic, Sustainable Color Design Strategies. It's published in Coloration Technology. Patrick Blanc is a renowned French botanist and scientist. He is best known as the inventor of the vertical garden or living wall. These spectacular plant-covered walls draw inspiration from tropical rainforests, bringing nature into urban spaces. Blanc transforms stone and concrete facades into vibrant ecosystems that enhance biodiversity and serve as living art installations. One example you see here is the Quai Branly Museum in Paris. Would this be an easy way to make urban spaces greener? Probably not. These large-scale professional vertical gardens are high-tech systems that require significant maintenance and repair work, which is expensive. In recent years, and particularly following the 2020 pandemic, biophilic color design has become a prominent trend. What is biophilic color design? One way to achieve it is to incorporate green infrastructures. This involves adding small-scale features such as living walls, indoor gardens, strategically placed trees to provide visual appeal, shade, and natural cooling. Natural materials such as wood and terracotta tiles are used to bring natural colors and textures indoors. Light is another important factor. Maximizing natural light through large windows and skylights reduces the need for artificial lighting, a key energy-saving feature. Water is also an integral element. Studies have found that water features can reduce stress levels and promote relaxation. Light color facades can significantly affect a building's thermal performance by interacting differently with solar radiation than dark colors do. This raises a question: will all our cities become white, have creamy and light-colored facades as a result of climate change? Jean-Philippe Lanclos' collection of different types of earth demonstrates the wide variety of natural colors found in different geographical regions. Colors have given cities their nicknames. For instance, in France, Toulouse is known as La Ville Rose, the pink city, due to its historic buildings made of reddish terracotta bricks. These bricks, made from locally abundant clay, give the city a distinctive warm and rosy glow. Albi is known as La Ville Rouge, the Red City, because of its distinctive reddish brick architecture, which includes the world's largest brick cathedral. Roussillon is known as La Ville Ocre, the Ochre City, because of its ochre quarries. And located on the Atlantic coast, La Rochelle is known as La Ville Blanche, the White City, thanks to its bright white limestone buildings. The French city of Angers is traditionally known as La Ville Noire, the Black City, because many of its historic buildings have slate roofs. While these terms and nicknames were once commonplace, they have become less so as the cities have modernized. Jean-Philippe Lanclos, the creator of the geography of color, collected material samples during the analysis phase of his urban color planning methodology. These samples depict the original colors of the architecture and its surroundings. In the studio, these samples were processed into gouache color samples representing a range of shades rather than just one color. The House of Farbe Institute in Zurich, Switzerland, was founded 30 years ago to focus on color studies and craftsmanship. Researchers there are studying the regional characteristics of color in Swiss architecture and have created color charts capturing the typical color harmonies and spatial characteristics of various cities, villages, and regions. These charts can serve as a starting point or source of inspiration. Fiona McLachlan has collaborated with House de Farbe, drawing inspiration from the work. She's a professor of architecture practice at the Edinburgh School of Architecture and Landscape Architecture. 2 months ago, she published an article in ARIA, an open access journal based at the University of Buenos Aires. In the article, she describes the complex process of collaborative color design in architecture. She applied a qualitative research-led methodology to develop a color design strategy for introducing color to the renovation of 2 brutalist housing blocks from the 1960s in Edinburgh, Scotland. She used abstract watercolors, hand-painted collages, and digital design drawings, as well as physical models for discussion purposes. She organized workshops with architecture students to test the interactive collage, as well as participatory resident consultation events, including a color and painting workshop. I warmly recommend her paper. Designers and architects have been incorporating emerging technologies such as augmented reality and virtual reality into the work to enable the creation of color schemes for these immersive spaces. Data-driven design using AI is now being employed to analyze vast amounts of data, including eye tracking information and user responses, in order to inform environmental color planning and enhance urban planning and design. AI can help to design complex material structures, predict performance, and optimize formulations for cost and sustainability. It can also improve the efficiency of manufacturing and applying paints and coatings. AI-powered tools can generate color palettes for different screen types and devices. They can also provide detailed color information and define color spaces, for example, hex codes or RGB values. Computational tools manage screen colors. AI is a tool. It is not a replacement for personal creativity. A large number of designers are already using AI. It is expected to enable them to focus on the more strategic and creative aspects of the work. Finally, more and more academic researchers are using photography to select colors and create color palettes for urban spaces. Photography is sometimes considered a more objective tool than subjective visual observation and comparison methods using color tools or spectral photometers. However, screens do not display colors in the same way as the original surface. Calibration helps to achieve a closer match. Lighting can also impact color. In conclusion, I would like to say the human eye remains at the center of all activities in the creation of environmental and urban color planning and design. Thank you very much.
Verena, that was so inspiring. And the first thing that comes to mind is my knowledge of the fact that not very many architecture departments have studied color and so this is such an opportunity to understand how color does impact. As you said, I'm thinking about the sustainable color design strategies and biodiversity. So I just thank you so much. I know there's a lot to talk about in the panel discussion. So really appreciate your talk. Thank you. And we will continue with this theme and move forward with talk 3. Talk 3 is color and interior design for birth centers. Be careful when color surrounds you. For our third and final talk today, we will hear from 2 speakers who have collaborated on a human-centered architectural design project. I will introduce both speakers before their joint presentation. Juan Serra is a PhD architect, full-time professor in the School of Architecture of the Polytechnic University of Valencia in Spain, and subdean of research at ETSA. He is co-chair of the study group on environmental color design of the International Color Association and member of the color research group in architecture of the Heritage Restoration Institute, editor-in-chief of VLC Architecture Research Journal, and member of the editorial board of Color Research and Application. He has been a Fulbright Scholar at the Munsell Color Science Laboratory and visiting researcher in Oxford, Milan, Paris, Lisbon, and Lima. He is a regular contributor to the AIC Congresses and Architectural Graphic Expression International Congresses. Juan is a researcher in competitive national and international projects about color restoration, color integration of buildings, color perception in interior architecture, color for well-being and performance, and neuroarchitecture. He has published numerous papers in index research journals and is the author of the book Color for Architects, published by Princeton Architectural Press in 2019. Ignacio Cabovilla is PhD architect from the Polytechnic University in Valencia, former associate lecturer at the University of Zaragoza, senior lecturer in the Department of Architectural Graphic Expression at the Polytechnic University of Valencia, member of the UPV Institute of Heritage Restoration, and the Architectural Color Research Group. His research includes color in architecture, both modern and historical, and the heritage architecture of Crown of Aragon from constructive, compositional, and stylistic perspectives. He is a recipient of research grants from the Ibercia CAI Foundation, and the Spanish Ministry of Science, Innovation, and Universities. He has participated in numerous research projects funded by public entities and in contracts with administrations and private companies focused on the color of architecture, both heritage and newly built. Please welcome Juan Serra and Ignacio Cabavia.
Thank you so much, Luan. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks so much for the opportunity to share our work with you. Okay, so as Luan has explained, Ignacio and me belong to the color research group in architecture in the Polytechnic University of Valencia. So if you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can find all the information at the webpage of our color group, grupocolor.webs.upv.es. So our presentation today is about an academic activity related with an ongoing research project titled NISHEM, Strategies and Models to Improve the Safety, Functionality, and User Experience in Birth Centers. It has been founded by the European Union and has been participated by a consortium of 6 entities. So the objective of the project is to set architectural criteria for the design of birth centers, which are buildings designed to facilitate normal childbirth. So we are talking about births with no medical interventions for low risk births, offering an alternative to conventional, sometimes overly technical births, which are the most common nowadays. So therefore, the design must meet the healthcare requirements of a hospital and reconcile them with the subjective perception of the environment that facilitate the natural progression of childbirth. So this is the challenge of the project, to meet both things. So the members of the UPV have developed the design of a prototype of birth center at 3 scales and with 3 coordinated teams, with recommendations regarding the building, the interior spaces, with particular attention to the birthing room and the postpartum room, and also we have designed the furniture, what included the design of a water birth bathtub. We followed a human-centered design methodology with the participation of a group of midwives, mothers with experience in natural birth, architects and designers who were also specialists in healthcare environments, who evaluated the designs at their different stages of development in 3 moments. In the case of the birthing room, also known as a labor delivery recovery room, LDR, the functional and dimensional aspects were evaluated in the initial conceptual phase, working with square, rectangular, or L-shaped floor plans. We distinguish a dynamic area for the mothers to move around, the wet area for the water birth, spaces for the companion, and, well, all the different functional needs. The same process was followed for the postpartum room. This is the room after the birth and before the family goes back home. And we work with different floor plan geometries and functional layouts. The participants also evaluated and the most suitable materials and colors for these buildings and interiors, working with these 6 mood boards that try to cover the whole color wheel in natural color system, including material colors, samples of materials. So with this information, we developed and modeled 3 interior spaces with square, rectangular, and L-shaped geometries, and also with 3 color alternatives. And the same process was followed for the hospital rooms. The participants evaluated these new designs using immersive VR. So if you are curious, you can get access and navigate the design following this link. Let me see if it opens. Okay, so when you click on that link, well, it's in Spanish. I'm sorry for that, but there are some icons which make it very easy. You have 3 icons that indicate the floor plan for the postpartum room, rectangular, square, or L shape, and also for the LDR. So let me click, for instance, in the LDR room with L shape. It takes a little bit, but you can see surfing 360 degrees to see all around the design with the initial colors. Clicking on pressing the number 3 or number 2 on your keyword, you can change the colors of the interior, and this was the way in which we collected the opinion of the participants. So if I am able to go back, okay, to my presentation, yes. What we discover, and this is our small color misconception for this meeting, was that the colors that were the most preferred when working with physical samples were now evaluated in the environmental reality as excessively bold or too strong when rendered, in a surrounding environment. So this is our advice. Be careful when color surrounds you and is extended to a bigger surface because preferences will probably shift. So always make a double check and collect the information and the opinion again. In our case, we modified this color and we continued to develop the final design for this LDR with the advice of the people involved in the study. Another interesting finding of the project was that all the needs expressed by mothers and midwives regarding birthing centers can be conceptualized under the acronym CASIA. So the architecture must give answer to the requirements of comfort, appropriation, safety, privacy, and activation. So based on these ideas, a final model of a birthing room was created in which all technical elements can be hidden up within the furniture, featuring natural materials and avoiding a hospital-like aesthetic for the postpartum room too. So in relation with this interior design, the ceramic company Keraben is developing a bactericidal tile appropriate for birthing rooms. So we organize a competition with the students to make the design of these tiles. So now I will give the floor to my colleague Ignacio, who will explain the designs of the students because he was the professor in charge of this subject.
Juan, the presentation went away on the screen, I believe. Can you pull it back
Yes,
up?
yes.
Oh,
Now
I see. I see. Ignacio's coming on. Thank
Ignacio is
you.
going to share. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
great.
sharing the presentation now. You can see it, right?
Not
No,
quite
not
yet.
yet.
No? Okay, then. Okay, now.
Yes. It's coming up.
Okay, this
Thank you.
it's where Juan finished. Okay. Well, as Juan was saying, we in order to design the ceramic pieces for the postpartum and the LDR units, a competition was organized in collaboration with Salone, which is a leading manufacturer of ceramic materials. Now, this initiative was directed at master's level architect students enrolled in a course I teach, which is specifically focused on the application of color in architecture, addressing both its role in urban contexts and in interior design. Now, Saloni Ceramics established the technical requirements that the designs had to meet, with a clear focus on industrial reality, ensuring that the designs could easily enter production. To achieve this, the range of colors that could be used was defined through a color profile provided by the company, limiting the color palette to those that the industrial process can reproduce within the priorities set by the project in the examples that Juan has shown you previously, and adding the different possibilities for surface finishes. Those are matte, gloss, or texture. Additionally, we specified that the dimensions of the pieces should be 90 per 90 centimeters, and that in the case of including graphic variations to generate different pieces or tonal changes, this should fall within a range of 6 to 8 pieces. Now, in the subsequent slides, a curated selection of the submitted designs is presented, and they are organized into 3 principal categories according to the references explicitly stated by the authors. Now, these references serve as the conceptual foundation for the development of their proposals, and they were based either on geometric principles, natural elements, or the exploration of texture creation. Now, approximately 1/4 of the submitted designs are grounded in the repetition or combination of a geometric motif of varying degrees of complexity. Now, these compositions occupy the surface in a manner reminiscent of a tapestry, employing pronounced color contrast to accentuate their underlying geometric structure. Okay, among the geometrically inspired designs, a particular attention should be given to Timeless, this proposal, which introduces a piece that can be freely combined in any of the 4 possible orientations. And furthermore, it allows for the subdivision into smaller units of 45 per 45 centimeters while preserving this combinatory feature. Now, the second design I want to show you is Verena, which consists of a series of 6 pieces that are inspired by the breathing rhythms considered most appropriate for each phase of the labor process. Okay, now 1/3 of the designs drew inspiration from nature, and they divided into 2 main groups: those that established a direct connection with the plant world, and those seeking a poetic reference to the cycle of life, relating it in some way to the sun, stars, and similar elements. The color palettes employed in these proposals are more restrained than in the previous cases, and they aim to create a more serene environments without strongly defined patterns or directions, and generally distancing themselves from the abstraction characteristics of geometrically inspired designs. Okay, among these nature-inspired designs, first one I want to show you is Blooming Rays. It consists of a series of 6 pieces that can be alternately combined in any position, and aims to create a calm and relaxing atmosphere within a room. The color palette in this case is deliberately restrained, featuring only beige and blue tones. Now, Whisper is another project with a similar approach and color scheme, which incorporates, in this case, the plasticity afforded by texture surface finishes that replicate the vegetal motifs. With a more varied approach regarding the color palette, yet still drawing on references to nature, Sunset recreates the effect of a sunset within a room, generating a color gradient across both vertical and horizontal planes. Now, the final major group of proposal encompasses those that approach the project through the creation of a texture intended to occupy and define the space in an azeotropic manner, yet avoiding homogeneity or monotony by introducing variations in color or geometry. These designs are focused on texture generation, and they tend to reduce the saturation of the colors employed, allowing the texture itself to assume prominence, and generally they limit the color palette to blue, brown, and green. Now, among this type of proposals focused on textures, NAMI deserves a particular mention. It consists of a series of 6 pieces and 3 distinct colors, incorporating variations in the topography of the tile. The pieces are interchangeable in position and can be combined with any other element of the series, and thus enabling the possibility of an infinite and non-repetitive arrangement. And finally, Sapphire, which was awarded the first place in the competition, consists of a series of 6 pieces in different shades of green, arranged over a geometric texture that is inspired by a woven fabric pattern. Well, all the designs were showcased in an exhibition held at the School of Architecture at the Polytechnic University of Valencia, and the award was awarded by a jury composed of members of the Naisian project, faculty of the UPB, and professionals from Salonic Ceramics. A limited production of these pieces will soon be carried out for their installation in a temporary exhibition pavilion of the project, and thereby completing the entire process from conceptualization to manufacturing and implementation. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I remain at your disposal for any questions or comments.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Juan and Ignacio for your inspiring collaboration. It's also great to see how your students are working with you and working with this project, really getting them involved in this extremely important project. And I also want to thank all of our speakers for your terrific presentations today. We're looking forward to our next part of our program. So as we're thanking you and you're getting your accolades here, I want to move on into part 2 of our program, which is a 30-minute panel discussion. And before I just talk about that for a second, I saw the question, will we be able to access the recording afterwards? Absolutely, yes. It takes about a week, and then we'll have them up on the Color Literacy website, and they're then posted to our YouTube channel. So you can go on to the Color Literacy website and also see our previous recordings. So, all right, so for the panel, our moderator for the panel is Ingrid Calvo-Ivanovic, color designer, researcher, consultant, co-chair of the AIC Study Group for Color Education, and member of the Color Literacy Project core team. Ingrid will be joined by Domicele, Verena, Juan, and Ignacio, and I will monitor your questions from the chat box. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Luan, and thank you very much to our speakers for their interesting presentations. I was taking some notes and trying to look also for some common patterns on the 3 presentations, which I think were very, very inspirational. So the first one that I want to bring to this conversation is this idea, and that I think is also very contemporary, because we have been seeing, probably most of us that are interested in the color phenomena, we have been seeing the discussions that raise in the social media during these days related to the new color of the year that you have maybe already have seen, this white color of the year that we know that's very widespread, and a lot of conversations that are happening around it. Some people like it, some people not. And so about this whiteness and this idea of kind of that Verena was presenting, the concept of this, let's say, losing of color, while the cities are also facing this idea of climate change. And then I take this and I go back to Domicele's presentation, where she was indicating in some way that lighter colors may have positive meanings, but also that in a way duller colors, so less saturated colors, are also proposing, let's say, more negative association. So this losing color also in our cities could create, from my perspective, this perception of going to a future, also this metaphor of going to a future that could be less positive in terms of color. But then I jump to Ignacio and Juan's presentation, and I see that actually people were actually preferring colors that were not bold and that were going to the duller side, right? So to the less saturated side or the lighter side. So I would like to bring this idea of saturation and lightness and how they may have an impact in our perception from what Domicele is presented in the associations of color and what Verena and also Juan and Ignacio show to us. So if you can comment on Juan, Verena, maybe starting from you, and Juan Ignacio and Verena. So this idea that maybe when we design color for the urban space or when we design color for the interior space, we may have some hypotheses of bold color, very intense, because we are colorists and we like to also to foster the idea of using more color, right? And then when we face the reality, then it seems that the reality is taking us to a duller palette. So if you can comment on that, the four of you as having a conversation about this first idea. Wants to go? Juan, I think you want to.
Okay, I will open the talk. Of course, in architecture, white works, but okay, we know that, but what else? I mean, we already know that. So probably, well, we have been trying to insist for decades that there are other options for, particularly for interior architecture, uh, to just stick to white. Um, in our study, the point was not that they were. I mean, the midwives and mothers prefer to use colors from the very beginning, but of course, it's not the same. The extension of something that is on your hand, that's something that completely surrounds you. And we need to say that probably the opinion that these colors were too strong was also biased because of using virtual colors, really. So, well, it was more about the extension and the aspect of those colors. But the final solution includes color. They want colors. It's a way to make the space yours. I mean, the how to say in English? The appropriation of the space is important, particularly in for mothers to give birth, and color helps. They feel more comfort. They feel better with they express they prefer the colors. And regarding the urban colors, I've loved so much the image that Verena showed to us with those pigments from Jean-Philippe Lenclos because yeah, because of course historical cities had colors, but were um, mineral colors. I mean, not strong colors, not saturated colors. I think that we will feel very soon fed up of such strong colors in urban spaces. Um, and of course, our color research group has also been working to say, well, the colors of our cities were these ones, which are not softer colors, not so saturated colors. That's it. But very beautiful. I mean, the color of the brick, the ochres, the limestone. Wow, there's a range of very nice shades inside these pigments. So, well, thanks, Verena, for showing this image, which is really beautiful.
I would like to say that white cities, they exist already in different parts of the world. And so it's nothing new. But And I don't think it will work for every geographical region. For instance, in the North Pole, do you think, or near the North Pole, do you think that white will make sense? Maybe not. So, but how about architecture in the regions where it's very hot? Usually they use natural materials like clay or wood or whatever. So all these materials, natural materials, are not necessarily white. So it was just white is important because it reflects light. So when the streets are very narrow, it could be a good thing. When it's too hot, I mean, there are companies here in Switzerland, for instance, one paint company did develop a special paint, which they called cool white. So it's very specific, and some architecture offices like Studio in Rotterdam with Ben van Berkel, they were using the color for exactly that purpose, to not to use so much energy in the building. So it depends really where you would like to introduce this white. It depends on the region, on the climate, and I don't think we can just say it's a general option.
Thank you, Verena. Domicile?
Yeah, thank you, Ingrid, for this question. It was really interesting how you managed to combine kind of aspects of our different talks. So I was thinking about the things that you brought from my talk, that I said that lighter colors are more positive and more saturated colors are also more positive. So one thing that maybe I would like to mention is this difference between color preferences and color emotion associations. So it might seem that it's the same thing. If you associate something positive, then you like those colors, and if you associate something negative, you don't like these colors. But this is not necessarily true, and we're working on this line of research, and in fact, there are many examples where preferences and color associations do not go hand in hand. So one would be, for example, black. Especially a lot of people like wearing black. They think, it makes them look good. It's a color of sophistication, of high class, but at the same time, in the emotion associations, we find that this is the most negative color. On the other hand, the positive colors like yellow and pink, they are the most positive, but they carry a lot of people don't like it. The pink might be, for some it's like too feminine or stereotypical, and yellow and orange in general, they just disliked colors for clothing, for different spaces. So color preferences and color emotion associations are not necessarily the same thing. Another thought that I had is also the research I present, it's context free. So either we work with words or we work with color patches. And it was really beautiful to see how Juan showed that, what you choose as a patch does not necessarily translate into real spaces. So I cannot really say anything, neither about emotion associations nor about preferences of these colors being put in real spaces. So it's nice that you commented on this. And the third thought that I had was actually research done by Anna Franklin's group, where they studied color preferences. So color preferences in general, they follow a predictable trend across the world. So in general, people seem to like blues and also some reds, and they don't like yellows and oranges, especially the dark ones, which is brown. So again, if it's context-free, you can kind of get the same curve. And then they went to Namibia, to Himba speakers who are a tribe, and they have also fewer color terms. And they had exactly the same methodology, presenting color patches, measuring preferences, and they could not replicate the so-called universal pattern. Basically, what they found was that Himba speakers just liked all the saturated patches, and all the desaturated and light patches, they were equally, I mean, they were just lower in preference, but again, they were kind of flat. There was no hue difference. And I mean, it's first of all very peculiar, but one of the explanations could be that they are just really not used to seeing these saturated colors. You know, it's a very unnatural object to bring, like a square, a color, decontextualized thing. So if you see it for the first time, maybe it's something that you like. Again, if you were in a room full of the saturated color, perhaps you feel completely differently. So yeah, so these were the thoughts that I had, and yeah, happy to continue discussing.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Domicile, because that also connects very much with the topic of today, which is actually how color has this impact beyond theory, right? So it seems to me that sometimes this, as I was saying before, maybe this color selection we do by using color swatches, it feels, from my point of view, what I've heard, it feels to be something real or more realistic. Actually, when we work with color, we want to see actually the physical color sample, right? But then we realize that actually seeing color in that specific small format is not necessarily really connected with the experience, the embodied experience of color in a space, as you were saying. So that's great. Luen, I'm going to give the word to you. Do we have any interesting questions from the chat box?
Well, I'm going to combine two questions, and this is related to Domicele's talk. So I'm going to combine two. The first one is by Sebastian Aguilar, and the question is, how are dimensions of color, the hue, value, chroma, etc., addressed through colors expressed abstractly through words? So, and the second question is from Sarah Loengard. She asks, why is the main color for Zephyr green when everyone knows Zephyr is ice blue? But here's the real question. Truly, what accommodations and considerations are in place in all this research to manage word color synesthesia? So the one about synesthesia and one about the dimensions of color.
Okay, well, thank you very much for these questions. The first question I already kind of hinted at when I was looking at the chat. So it's a very good question because, of course, when you look at color dimensions, you probably need to work with physical color samples. So, for example, in some studies, you can ask people to choose a color and then you can compare, let's say, the lightness or the chroma or the hue values between different conditions, for example, being in a positive in situation and negative situation. So this is quite easy. Now, when you go to words, you kind of lose some of this information. So it is much harder to talk about color dimensions, and therefore I usually talk about color categories, and this was what I presented in the talk. But I think you can't say that there is no information because so hue obviously is there, although you need to be careful because, as I said, like brown is dark orange or dark yellow, so it's kind of, I mean, yeah. So it depends whether you want to consider brown as a separate color category, you want to look by hue. But I think that if you think about lightness, obviously we have white, which is the lightest color there is. And we have black, which is the darkest color. And then we know that brown, as I said, is dark. And we know that for a color to be called yellow or pink, they have to be light. Otherwise, they will be called brown or red. So we have a little bit of this information. For example, for green and blue, we don't really know because, oh, sorry, I did not mean to show any signs. But again, Zoom is doing its own things. Yeah, so for green and blue, we don't really know. It's really like it's the two color dimensions that are spanning from light to dark and also through saturation. So yeah, we can do a little bit like this. But for example, some of the results that I presented, actually we arrived at the conclusions the other way around. So first we looked at the color categories and what associations they have, and then we kind of noticed that, as I said, the yellow and pink, they are the most positive colors. Actually, they're even more positive than white. So in our studies, white is not the most positive color. And then we started, and as I said, black, gray, and brown, they are the most negative colors. Again, about gray, we don't know. It might be light or dark. But we know that brown and black are dark. So it's kind of, when you start looking like what is connecting these color categories, that's how you can kind of arrive at this conclusion the other way around instead of working with physical color samples. But yeah, it is just an approximation. And if you really want to study the question of saturation and lightness, you need to work with physical samples.
And Domicele, the comments you might have concerning synesthesia and word associations.
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't really completely understand the second question, how to approach it. And also you ended with synesthesia, which is a completely like different phenomena. So the idea of synesthesia would be that there are automatic experiences. So for example, it could be a color and a sound experience. So if you hear a sound, then you see a color, or if you see a color, you hear a sound, and so on. I'm not really sure what is a color word synesthesia, but again, they I mean, some people have synesthetic experiences. What is really interesting is that most people who have it, they don't know it's unusual, and then they read somewhere, and then they say, "Oh, so not everyone, sees a color when they hear a sound." So it's like it's something really, really natural for the individuals. What can we learn about the general population from synesthesia? I don't know. These associations are very idiosyncratic and unique for the person. So, yeah. So I don't know if I can really comment much more. But I think was there, yeah, like the naming of the color versus what it actually looks. So Zephyr green, well, we know it's ice blue. So I'm not really sure what Zephyr is, but I was thinking about lime. When people say lime color, it's this really, really saturated green, like almost painful green. But actually, if anyone ever bought a lime, they would know that lime is dark green, or if you cut it, I mean, it's still not as saturated. So I think there are certain color names, which, I mean, we need color names to refer to colors, right? And then at some point, these color names become more and more abstract, and you don't necessarily refer like one to the object from which the color was derived. So maybe this is something what happened.
Thank you, Domicile. And also, I also noticed another common thing from the three speeches of today, which is actually, let's say, related to what will come next. I would like here to kind of bridge a little bit with the next year's series, which I'm giving a spoiler here. It's going to be related to more applied working with color series. So I noticed that the three of you were referring to an interesting use of technology when working with color. So in your case, Domicile, you were saying that you are working with VR and trying to kind of simulate this space immersion of color spaces for your next or current studies. And then also Juan and Ignacio, you were working with VR for showcasing your color palette to the people you were testing color with. And then Verena, you were also talking about the use of technology and VR and AI for the future color applications in color in urban places. So I would like to bring this to the conversation because also related to what we were saying before about the physical samples and this kind of traditional idea that we need the physical samples actually to work with color and that virtual color is never going to be realistic experience of color. So I would like to have your point of view because the three of you were addressing that the kind of the current and the future is working with color and with the use of these tools. So what can you tell to our audience, which is also related to teachers, color teachers and color practitioners that can be still very trying to understand how to deal with these technologies when working with color. So if you can comment a bit on that. Juan, do you want to start again?
Okay.
Or Ignacio? Yeah.
Well, for us, the possibility to use environment, I mean, surrounding panoramas has definitely improved the options to evaluate the perception of the interior of a space, definitely. I mean, well, we usually talk about three different concepts. One is reality, the perception of that something is real. You can perceive the reality in a photograph somehow, but you are out from that. The second is the perception of presence that you feel really inside, and there are ways to evaluate. I mean, standard ways to evaluate the perception of presence in an interior. And the third will be the physical feasibility. I mean, is this environment really possible for you? I mean, is there at the moment? I mean, we should go farther. We should try to let people interact with the space, to move around, to even select different things. The presence of an avatar of oneself has been demonstrated to raise the perception of presence. Um, a few days ago, there was a PhD in a university in A Coruña. I had the opportunity to be member of the jury, and it was really interesting because it was about um, rendering in real time. I mean, not an offline rendering, which is what we usually do, but how to conceal the need of these computational requirements, which are difficult, and to be able to find that balance between something that seems real, and at the same time you can move around and interact. So it was really interesting because the idea was that not necessarily the most accurate um, I mean, there are other elements when you make an interior which are not necessarily the physical feasibility of lighting and so on, but other things like the atmosphere, the the cast shadowing, the lighting, and also the movement of the camera. I mean, which can compensate the lack of reality in the model. Well, anyway, I'm extending too much, but the idea is that for us, it has been, I mean, this technology is definitely a very good way to evaluate, particularly the perception. So, perhaps I would like to know a little bit more about Domicele's research working with these colors in interiors. I remember that Byron Michaelides and the people from the Oxford Brookes University, they had an interior room, and they evaluated the subjective perception of people just surrounding with different colors. Well, it was time ago, but probably now virtual reality gives you an extra possibility for this.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I share your feelings that virtual reality is a helpful tool. So, what we want to do as psychologists is create kind of different spaces and immerse people in these spaces, but of course, and control the color parameters and have a high variation of the spaces. So if you think of creating real environments, even if, for example, in our study we have 18 spaces, so we would need 18 real rooms somehow colored in specific colors. So again, Juan also mentioned the feasibility. It would be very hard to do, and therefore we were very happy to be using virtual reality to create we basically created very, very simple rooms. Probably for architects, it looks way too simple. It is just a room with colored walls, and we are interested to understand whether being, so what people experience being in the different rooms. So we have different lightness, light and dark, and we have the different hues. Because, for example, we don't really know if even red increases arousal systematically across, many, many different participants. Or if it is something to do with warm colors, or maybe there is nothing really systematic across people, but it is an experience of a different individual. So, so this is what we are trying to do. We're trying to create the different spaces. And as I said, we also have the light room. And the challenge that we have experienced was that even if you create spaces which are colorimetrically and on the perception models, they seem to have the same colors, the experience is really, really different. So being in the room that is VR colored walls, and then being in the light room where the light theoretically is reflecting the same color from the walls, is absolutely two different experiences. So what we found, for example, that it's very hard to make dark colors in the light because you just have dimmer room, but it's not necessarily a dark color, right? If you use the paint. So I thought that the light rooms will work better because it's closer to the real space. At least you're not, wearing goggles. You are in a space physically. But I'm not sure anymore because at least with VR, we were able to simulate like what the paint colors would look like. And I would love to be able, in the end, have these 18 physical rooms and also color them and to see if we get the same responses because, yeah, again, we don't know if different conditions lead to the same experiences. But I think that VR is, for us, it's a very helpful tool to simulate immersion and not just work with patches of colors or just words.
Thank you, Domicile. So, Verena, we have just a brief time if you want to briefly comment on your experience and what you think, how maybe the use of AI is going to improve or change or challenge the way we are going to be thinking on city color or urban color in the next years. If you want to briefly comment on that before we
Yes, I
close.
think it's very important. It has become a very important tool to visualize things. You can also visualize materials and everything. So it's more than just to design a room or a space. And if you think that it was introduced only 3 years ago, I guess I read that about 80% or maybe even 90% of designers use already AI as a tool to create spaces and as a help for projects. Nevertheless, I don't know, Domicile, you were talking about rooms, but as far as I understood, one room is one color. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
So if we look at urban space, it's completely different. We never have just one color. So we have a lot of different colors. So some dominant colors like the colors of the facades, and then all the shutters and doors and the smaller surfaces. So it's a very complex, it's a complexity that actually you don't have in some of the experimental studies. And what I would like to say is also we can deal with virtual reality, with AI, everything, but it's something that remains on the screen. So if you, in all the projects I collaborated with in the Atelier Claire, even small samples are not enough. Usually we do big samples like 2 meters by 2 meters or so and go to the place in situ. We look at how this color, usually you don't just do one sample, but 2 or 3 or maybe more samples to compare. So because the light is very important, the context is important, so many factors impact the colors. So that's why we still need to look at colors in a place. So the sense of place is really very important. That's what I wanted to say. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Verena. So it seems to me that perception will remain a human experience, right? And that's the hope, and that's the future probably. So that said, thank you very much for this conversation. I'm going to give the stage to my colleague Luan to close our forum for today.
Well, thank you so much to everyone. I want to first apologize to the questions we didn't get to address in the chat box. Thank you for asking them. And obviously, we have more opportunities in the future to get together and to have these conversations. So we really, really appreciate that for you coming. Thank you to Domicele, Verena, Juan, and Ignacio, all of us, for sharing your research with us today. And to Ingrid for moderating the conversation. And also thank you to everyone for being part of the forum today. Before we adjourn, I would like to invite you to keep an eye out for our 2026 series, which Ingrid mentioned, gave a teaser focused on working with color, exploring future-focused color applications across several disciplines. We look forward to seeing you there. The date's not available yet. It will be coming in early spring, but the details will be posted on the Color Literacy website as soon as the information is confirmed, so stay tuned. In the meantime, we encourage you to visit the website to learn. That's Color Literacy Project. Is Color Literacy? I think is it in the web? Is it in the chat box? You put it in there anyway. But we encourage you to visit the website to learn more about 21st century color literacy fundamentals and to check out the resources, including the ABC's pathway exercises and recordings from our previous forums that are posted on the YouTube channel. So happy holidays to everyone. Please keep in touch and enjoy life in the color field. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.